Now, this morning on eNCA, we continue placing the spotlight on our democracies, or rather our country's state of democracy, with the plethora of issues facing South Africa. Is this how you imagine the country progressing at the birth of this democracy 28 years ago? Anti-apartheid activist, academic and co-founder of Reimagining South Africa, Dr. Mamphele Ramphela joins me now to weigh in on this. Good morning, Doctor, and thank you very much for your time. You know, some are saying South Africa is honestly coming undone at the seams, that this is as a result of years of being subjected to a leadership culture bereft of moral and ethical content. What is your take? What has led us here?
Good morning to your listeners and good morning to what has brought us here is our failure to understand that democratic constitutional governance cannot happen without a foundation of values that puts human beings at the center. We negotiated successfully a political settlement that gave us this beautiful constitution. But we now, almost 3 decades later, realize that we do not have a government that is capable of translating the ideals of that constitution, which embody the dreams of South Africa's people, into day-to-day life. What's the problem? The problem is we left the socioeconomic system that we inherited in 1994 intact. That system was designed to exclude the majority and to benefit the minority. I was listening to a previous interviewee talking about the economic system. Yes, the economic system that we have is ill-suited for the ideals of our democracy. And the reason is that at the heart of the current economic system is the winner-take-all, is me, myself, and I. That is why we ended up with state capture. What we need is a socioeconomic system that recognizes the importance of Ubuntu. When I treat you and others and the environment as I would like to be treated, we wouldn't have had state capture. You can't steal from yourself. We have a government that has developed this as a culture of governance. I was also listening to the question of we have robust institutions. We have them in theory. In practice, the parliament we have cannot hold our leaders accountable because they are deployed there to do what the ANC would like them to do.
Parliamentary oversight has been a problem. I actually was thinking John Steenhuisen would be sitting up and saying, I've just written to Parliament and said history is repeating itself. I've asked for an ad hoc committee. It's not happening. So which robust parliament?
Exactly. So we must stop fooling ourselves as South Africans. Democracy is in trouble the world over. The countries that are successful democratically are countries where citizens are holding their leaders accountable. Our citizens have tended to be seduced by the saying by the ANC that they are the leader of society. I didn't put them as leader of society. They have been voted in to be servants of the people. But now they've turned into people who do as they please. I'm speaking to you now without lights. I've had to buy an extra device to be able to continue to work despite load shedding. We are not a poor country. We are poorly led. And the reason is that we have a government that is valueless. It is not setting itself against the ancient wisdom of our ancestors that they don't realize, they don't recognize us as important. What's important is themselves.
Doctor, you touched on a very important, apologies for interjecting there, you touched on an important element, the concept of the economy. You say that you actually characterize it so well when you say that basically we are in this crisis because of somewhat of an unfinished project of rebuilding institutions, perhaps first shaped under colonial and then apartheid rule. But fair enough, we've heard that context for long now. But is it still okay 28 years later to say you needed to move beyond characterizing the problem? Because we're hearing the same thing at ESCOM, where we're always given the context, or citizens are given the context, that you must remember ESCOM was not designed to service the majority of South Africans. Good and well, you've characterized the problem. But 28 years later, should they have not moved to ensure that it caters now for the majority of South Africans?
Absolutely, but they can't move because they have taken state-owned enterprises and turned it into a patronage system. The apartheid government has the same patronage system, but their patronage system consisted of highly trained professionals. We put people who can hardly recognize a transformer when they see it, because at the heart of the current ANC government is how to make sure that their loyalists are taken care of, even in the face when people are found to have been corrupt, to have been criminal, to have lied about their qualifications. They are still kept there. So the issue is no longer the legacy. The issue is we have failed to place our governance and we as citizens to insist that we are governed according to the values of Ubuntu. I heard you talk about people who are protesting out there not being listened to. Why should people have to protest? It's so undignified. We as citizens have to stand up and demand to be treated with the dignity that we deserve. Mm-hmm. We are not supplicants to the ANC. We are the people who have hired the ANC to take care of our government. They failed dismally. Mm-hmm. It is now time for us as the people of South Africa. We, the people, must stand up and demand better. Mm-hmm. And what pleases me most is that young people are putting up their hands and saying, enough is enough. We have the means. We have the professional skills. We have the love of this country. We have the values of Ubuntu. We want to transform our socio-economic system to match it with the ideals of our constitution and with the values of our ancient wisdom of Ubuntu.
Mm-hmm. I know that you have been quite concerned by the statement that the ANC is too big to fail. I remember the former president, Thabo Mbeki, also stated this, but gave it context or tried to explain that it's not stated arrogantly that they would never fail, but they're saying that it is too important a component in the transformation agenda for people to allow the ANC to fail. They believe they still have a lot to contribute. What do you make of that?
They have contributed enough damage to the democracy, to the dreams of South Africa's people. They are just a party like any party in the world. Why must we bother about their survival? What we must bother about is the survival of this beautiful country. It is not dependent on the ANC. This country was liberated by the people of this country. We were seduced by the ANC to make us believe that they liberated us. Absolutely not. We liberated ourselves, and we will liberate ourselves again, this time from the ANC. And that liberation is going to happen street by street, institution by institution, because people demand nothing more than just being treated with dignity, to be able to live their lives without repeated blackouts because of the ESCOM has been completely hollowed out. Transnet, you name it, you just read the Zondo report. That's not an organization we should be saying is too big to fail. It's like Wall Street, in which collapsed the financial system through the kind of China that they were playing, literally creating fictitious assets. And then what happened? They were bailed out. And what happened? We had another financial meltdown. The ANC has failed, and they must just have the humility to say to the people of South Africa, we have failed, find other leaders.
What would you say to those political counterparts of yours in the activism space that would say perhaps you're being a bit harsh on them because in certain settings you have been a person that had said perhaps the government underestimated the task that lay ahead for them when they took on government because the structure itself is corrupted. It was not designed, as you say, to service the majority of South Africans. So it would be disingenuous of you to say today they have failed because you, as I said, in certain quarters have said the task is too grave.
Well, I stand by the fact that the task is too big, or was big in 1994. But the ANC focused on the politics, the command and control of the political space. They did not focus on how to transform the socioeconomic space in a way that will liberate all the talents of South Africa's people. And I've spent 30 years trying to advise, trying to support the process of transforming our education system, which is now worse than it was in 1994 for the majority of people. The healthcare system is worse than it was in 1994 for the majority of people because the ANC chose not transformation of the economy, but admission into the socioeconomic space through Black economic empowerment. It is not sensible to expect a minority to empower the majority. What we should have done was to acknowledge that there are strengths in both the socio and the economic system. Let's build on those strengths, but let us open up the space so that we would have an economic system that would have supported the people of Ngolobeni, the people of Bochum, where I come from, the people of all of the rural areas that have been neglected. To go through the countryside, the towns are dead or dying, all because the focus is on the narrow BEE. We have a Minister of Mineral and Energy Affairs who has failed to enable the enormous potential we have for renewable energies. Imagine what it could have been like if every rural area had a huge solar power plant, and the people would have gotten the jobs. There would have been thriving small enterprises there. We've got lots of wind here in the Western Cape. We could have had big wind farms and even smaller facilities, but all of that would have ended up making sure rural, urban people are taken care of. Look at our towns, exactly like the apartheid government left them, and worse, because there has been zero maintenance, because their Royal Highnesses are busy eating the money for infrastructure development. They are taking that in billions, as has been detailed in the Zondo Commission. So, yes, the job was big, but we had leaders with absolutely either no will or no capacity. And now they're just stubbornly holding on to a sinking ship. We are not going to allow this ship to sink. We are going to support young people who are very willing and they are capable of standing up and leading us out of this mess.
Doctor, what a sad state of affairs. But thank you very much for your insights. That's Reimagine South Africa co-founder, Dr. Mamphele Ramphela. More news and updates.